Tiril, thank you for joining us today. Very glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Saeed. It's fantastic to be here.
I just want to begin by asking, how did this all begin? How did you get into diplomacy? How did you get into Oxford? Was there a certain inspiration to do so, or was it something that you wanted to do from your childhood?
Yeah, so it all started. So I'm originally from Norway, and while it's been quite a journey to understand that diplomacy is really the key to make change, even though that might feel quite grim as we're sitting here in February 2025. But it started with when I first watched a documentary about women rights in Iran after 1979 revolution. And I was just 12 at that time, eager to work with the injustice that I just perceived. I went to the kitchen table and talked to my mom and my family about what was going on in Iran. And my mom ironically said, "Why don't you call the prime minister and ask if you can work with Iran?" So I did. They kindly said, "You need a master's and security clearance takes about a year." But then I called the Nobel Peace Centre. And to my big surprise, they said, "Yes, why don't you come and work with us once a week?" And fast forward, that's turned into an 8-year part-time job where I then got exposed to Nobel Peace Prize laureates like Shirin Ebadi, who had fought for rights and human rights in Iran. But that also made me realize that what was really at work here was the people, dialogue, and change makers. And when I came to Oxford during the pandemic in 2020, dialogue was quite limited. But I also realized that while there were huge debating societies and academic arenas, we were lacking a place for aspiring change makers to come together and talk and to get practitioners in and to have these dialogues. So that was what really inspired me and has started it all. So fast forward a couple of hundred events later, we're here. So very happy to talk to you about this today.
I mean, that's been quite a long journey. I read somewhere that you also did your bachelor's in Abu Dhabi as well, and NYU Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
both my I went to both United World College for my international baccalaureate, and then to NYU Abu Dhabi that also had students from about 120 nationalities. So you're then sat in a classroom where everyone comes from a different country, and all of your preconceptions will get challenged and make for a very, very good debate that prepared me for a lot of the discussions that we need to have in 2025.
We'd like to move on to our topic of discussion today, which is obviously peacekeeping and diplomacy. So my first question to you, Tiril, is what, according to you, are some of the peacekeeping challenges that we face today? I mean, I know you do a lot of doctoral research as well. So what, according to you, could be the problems that we face today?
Yes, so with regards to peacekeeping, I of course speak from the point of a researcher, as it's the focus of my PhD. And I think one of the key challenges of UN peacekeeping is that there needs to be a peace to keep. That is the overall aim. So when peacekeepers are deployed to places where there's no peace to keep, we are looking at different tools that might be more effective. So when we look at UN peacekeeping, what is really necessary is, of course, funding, political will from the countries to contribute troops and funding. Then it is the government's genuine aspiration to be part of the peacekeeping process with all its diverse mandates. And in more recent times, we've also seen that there's a big challenge with mis and disinformation that is spreading much faster with media, where you can both label the UN and humanitarian organizations as partial to the conflict, which are very hard to work against, even though they're often, of course, untrue.
So do you think the UN requires some form of reform to make it like a better institution to prevent future conflicts?
Yeah, this is a really good question. And firstly, it is, of course, for us and probably people in the society too that are keen to really make the world a little bit of a better place, to see conflicts erupting and feeling the helplessness. And reform with the UN has been talked about almost ever since its existence. And the reform is, of course, twofold. One, about representation to better reflect the political landscape we're seeing today. And the second reform is about being effective, to not have the stalemates we're seeing in the UN Security Council. But here, I think one can wonder what needs reform and what needs sort of the political will. Because I was recently rereading the UN Charter, and I was quite surprised to read that there is an article that says that members in the UN Security Council, if they're party to the conflict, shall abstain from voting. Whereas this has not been practiced since the 1960s. It was practiced, for example, by both India and Pakistan when they were in the Security Council. It was practiced by the UK and France in the beginning too. But with time and with the rise of the Cold War, this sort of rule, if you may, sort of just disappeared. So I'm wondering if it's less about reform as of systems and more in like rejuvenated will by countries to follow the rules and treaties that they do have signed. If not, we need to think about different systems that really can enforce commitments made by states. I think representation is really important. But it's not only because I think so, it is because conflict is multifaceted. And you do need representation if you're going to have a successful both peace negotiation and peace outcomes. And I don't think this is limited to women, but of all sectors in society, to not only include the elite and the military, but also include other parts of society that are affected by conflict. This is so crucial to get access, both when you're on the ground, but also in the negotiations after, and when the peacekeeping and the peace building process happens afterwards, because that's when society really has to come together. So inclusion, especially as we're going into this year, shouldn't be seen as a woke concept, but is rather essential to represent society and include people affected by society. So it is a necessity, I would say. Yes, definitely. I would say keep your hopes up, because it really is possible, and it's so important that we get good and qualified people into this field. To do so, I would really encourage seeking out diverse disciplines and perspectives. So to really try to take courses and classes cross-disciplinary, from economics to history to biology to now, of course, AI and languages. Languages are not a thing of the past. And then I would say, do not be afraid to reach out and talk. The worst thing that you can get is a no, but it's so important that we keep talking with each other and that you're not afraid to reach out to people that you would like to learn from. Most people, in my experience, are always happy to grab a coffee or have a call.
What's your favorite place to visit in the UK or Norway?
In the UK, Oxford. In Norway, my farm up in the mountain.
What's a secret hobby or talent that you wish you had?
That I wish I had. So I took a class in Chinese bamboo flute, and I wish I was a little bit better at that.
Who's your favorite person in the world of diplomacy?
I think that has to be Tom Fletcher, both the principal of Hertford, but also now the Undersecretary General of OCHA. So he's always a big role model for me.
Is he the one? Okay, I hope I'm not mistaken. Is he the one who was the former ambassador for Lebanon or something?
That's right.
That's the one, right?
Yeah.
A food item that you cannot live without.
Chocolate.
Just basic chocolate, or like is there a specific item as well?
Milk chocolate.
What's your guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
Attack on Titan. That is very guilty pleasure.
If you could swap jobs with any diplomat, who would it be?
Oof, this one caught me off guard. With any diplomat. You know what? I think it could be very interesting right now to be if I was going to do a lot of changes, I would either be an American diplomat or a Russian diplomat.
What's a language that you'd want to learn in the future?
I've had Arabic and I would really much like to improve my Arabic. If not, it's also to improve my French.
Who's your favorite fashion icon?
Oh, I think within diplomacy, Karen Pierce, the UK ambassador, was always very well dressed. At least she had her room.
And the last question from our segment, what's your favorite song in your playlist?
Currently, my favorite song in my playlist is either Nina Simone with Birds Flying High, or Feeling Good, I guess it's called. Or for the shower, Pink Pony Club.
Great. Absolutely enjoy speaking to you today.
Thank you
Hope
so
our
much.
audience loves our conversation as well.
I hope so too, and I really mean it with advice. Please do reach out if there's any questions or brainstorming that is needed, because that's really how we keep the conversation going as young aspiring diplomats.
Sure. Thank you for turning up, and wish you all the best from our society members.
Thank you so much, and all the best to you as well.